Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 360 experience with myself, Thomas Mabaso. So, guys, today I just want to share with you a couple of videos. These are just the developments that are taking place in this country, and I must say that I found these videos to be quite shocking. And the worst part is that there seems to be no accountability in this country. There seems to be a lack of political will, especially from the people that are occupying high offices, to actually enforce the law in this country. And as a result, the country is suffering. So, guys, normally I would say I hope you enjoy these videos, but honestly, I don't think this is the type of content that you are going to enjoy. But anyway, after watching these videos, please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye bye.
Trouble. But how is money actually moving around in South Africa? Now, one of the issues that isn't being spoken about enough in South Africa is how there are reports that spaza shops that are more and more being owned by foreigners are likely assisting the funding of terrorist groups globally. I know it's actually even crazy to consider, but IS or Islamic State and linked extremist groups are believed to be hijacking South Africa's smaller financial services to fund terror acts across Africa by moving billions of rands through spaza shops and retail outlets in the informal sector. The profits from informal and often unregistered spaza shops and money from other criminal activities are then quietly sent in modest, smaller amounts to Islamic terror cells spread over the continent to avoid being discovered. A Sunday Times investigation found that between 2020 and 2021, around 57,000 unregistered SIM cards were used to send 6.3 billion rand or $342 million via mobile money transfer from South Africa to Kenya, Somalia, Nigeria, and even Bangladesh. Money is also being seen to be embezzled through the Hawala system, an unofficial trust-based payment technique that is far harder to track down than bank transactions. Money doesn't actually leave the country in this way, but someone credits your account in the receiving country. Uncertainty surrounds the amount of money that jihadists and other terrorist groups raise. The other problem is that some of this money donated overseas is really actually intended to support families, but more and more of it is now being mixed up with criminal cash. But experts believe terror networks are awash with cash from financially loose places around the world, including South Africa.
We turn to this matter now. A report by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime has cast a harsh spotlight on Southern Africa, revealing that the region is now a hub for a vast and interconnected web of international criminal networks. The findings position the region not merely as a peripheral player, but as a central hub facilitating global flow of illicit goods, capital, and activities. The report documents how crimes from wildlife trafficking and illicit gold mining to drug smuggling, human trafficking, and financial fraud have become deeply embedded in several Southern African nations. Let's speak to this now with security strategist and former Interpol ambassador, Andy Mashaile. Randy, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this afternoon. One analysis says that we are, of course, becoming this node or this hub of international criminal syndicates because of our own rising criminality here in the country. For example, if you look at the numbers, South Africa, number 1 in the region and number 3 in the continent in terms of criminality levels, number 7 in the world. So the fact that we have such high levels of criminality in our own country makes us attractive to international syndicates.
Tibos, you're quite correct. One, the leniency that the criminal justice cluster meets out to masterminds and leaders of transnational organized crime syndicates makes it a lucrative area to be in. When you look at the Chinese mafia operating from Asia into East Africa, and also when you look at the Central Americas, I am specifically referring to your Brazils, to your Mexicos of the world, sending their contraband through the Durban port for the distribution of cocaine into East Africa, and from Durban to Australia. You have seen the foreign nationals or the Nigerians, transnational organized crime syndicate, taking root in your sentence of the world, operating fraud scams, the cyber security scams, and you look at West Africa through the West Coast, delivering once again drugs that comes from your Mexicos of the world. So we are at the center of an attack by the transnational organized crime syndicates because of our leniency. One, because of corruption. Number two. Number three, because of the involvement of our own people within the criminal justice cluster. What am I talking about? Because of involvement of some rogue police officers in the serious crime of transnational organized crime, which is rising, particularly in Africa.
The Government Pensions Administration Agency has reportedly awarded a 500 million rand biometrics contract to a company without directors. News 24 says the acting CFO, Khaile Molebatsi, committed the State Pensions Administrator to paying 521 million rand to LCS Technologies, which is in the process of deregistration. Well, let's talk now to News 24's investigative journalist, Sikonati Mantshantsha, who joins us via the virtual platform tonight. Mr. Mantshantsha, good evening to you. Thank you, as always, for your time. This is a story, quite a lengthy investigative report, which I have gone through. For viewers who may not be familiar with the story, let's try and sum it up in a few sentences. This is a company that is in the process of deregistration. On top of that, it also does not appear to have directors. Question is, have monies started flowing to this company? How did it manage to win this contract?
Good evening and to the listeners. The money has indeed, some of the money has indeed been paid, 43 million rands in total in three deposits for 4 invoices that went through to the company. Your question is, how did it win the tender? There was an advertised tender for biometric systems, which really helps the Government Pensions Administration Agency to know it is talking to the right person in terms of its beneficiaries when they make contact with the organization. And that tender was advertised, and a company called LCS Technologies, which said it was representing a consortium called LCS Identify Consortium, won it against 3 other bidders, and the price was set at 67 million rands over a period of 5 years. Now, the circumstances under which LCS itself won this contract are quite questionable. In the last stages, basically, it was the only one negotiating with the Government Pensions Administration in terms of price. The others had been eliminated in the stages before that. And then it was awarded a 67 million rand contract and signed that. But a year later, the acting chief financial officer of the Government Pensions Administration Agency entered into another contract because the contract he had negotiated, I'm saying he because he's the only person whose signature and name appears on the negotiation of the contract, had made a provision that said the GPAA will or reserves the right to add other services should it have other requirements to the contract. And that need arose last year in May, when Mr. Molebatsi, again alone, acting alone for the Government Pensions Administration Agency, signed a contract worth 500 million rands, adding to the 67 million rand. And for this contract, there were no tenders. A strange thing is the contract is exactly the same as the contract that was already in place for 67 million rands.
The 20th of May, 2025, investigators stepped into Parliament and dropped a very spicy briefing. They exposed what many of us already suspected, but couldn't prove: the national lottery fraud. Allegedly, since 2014, senior workers at the National Lottery Commission have been dipping straight into the jackpot, while we were faithfully buying lotto tickets every week, hoping to finally escape from having to choose between data or bread. Meanwhile, these people were not trying their luck. They were collecting directly from the pot. They were running an efficient money-making machine. And with it, they all got filthy rich. Mansions with 10 bedrooms, German cars that can speak back, holiday homes in places with names we can't even read. They lived large. This was a syndicate. A syndicate made up of geniuses, people that can balance sheets.
Classified.
In a second of development in the world of the National Lottery, Ituba, the lottery operator, is currently trying to locate the winner of this week's staggering 124 million rand Powerball jackpot.
The 6th of August 2025. Someone scooped 124 million rands in the Powerball jackpot. The lotto operator went on to disclose that the winning ticket was bought via the Absa banking app. When most heard this, eyebrows were raised, and things started to get messy. Those with an eagle's eye and an elephant's memory pointed out something very suspicious. For the past 5 years, all victories came from FNB and Absa only. Apologies to my Capitec and Nedbank people, but probability is very slim. In 2022 alone, there were 11 wins via the FNB app and 4 via Absa. And shockingly, or not, between 2022 and August 2025, not one significant victory came from any other bank besides the two. So, maybe FNB and Absa are blessed by the lotto gods, and the rest of us are just funding someone's December holiday in Dubai. Interestingly, as per the regulations, lottery winners get to stay anonymous, with only basic info like the region published. When confirming the win, the lucky person must show up in person with a valid ID, but outside of that, the identity stays a secret. And that makes sense. Imagine you won 100 million rands. Even that one cousin you last saw at your 5th birthday party will slide into DMs with a business proposal. Plus, let's be real, SA is one big movie set. You'll become the star of every action scene. You'll need more bodyguards than the president himself. So, with the winners' identities kept secret if they want, the folks spotted a major loophole. Allegedly, billions were silently stolen from the pot, until the entire scheme got exposed. The 1st of December, 2020, lottery winning numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the Powerball 10. As if the lotto was designed by someone who loves neat patterns more than being ethical. That event had everyone scratching their heads, questioning if the whole lottery system was actually legit. As strange as it is, 20 people won the jackpot on that day, against all odds. The total jackpot was more than 100 million rands, and they each walked away with a 5.6 million. So, this is the deal. The operator uses something called a random number generator, a fancy software that vomits random numbers. It's built with algorithms and designed to react when a button is pressed, generating a random sequence. Now, imagine a so-called random number generator, giving you 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's like finding missing car keys inside the fridge. Technically possible, but honestly speaking, what are the odds? Allegedly, it was all a scam. Fast forward, after the Special Investigating Unit's briefing, serious allegations have emerged, suggesting that insiders are manipulating lotto results to make sure certain people win, and not just once, but regularly. Thanks to the law allowing jackpot winners to stay anonymous. A huge loophole, one that's made many officials in the operating company seriously rich. And it gets juicier. There are some multiple winners, people who hit the jackpot several times. But because of the secrecy, getting the names is almost impossible, unless something changes. This got people talking, and many started looking at the report with an eye for detail. The findings suggest that the mess started in 2014. And this was the initial catch. The Commission uses funds from ticket sales to fund community projects, things like sports programs, arts initiatives, education drives, skills development, and charities. But no, these officials had other plans. Instead of helping the people, they helped themselves. According to the Special Investigating Unit, over $1 billion was stolen through this scheme. Before the stealing even began, the suspects allegedly went straight for the spine. They weakened the systems. At first, they tampered with IT controls at the National Lottery Commission. Then, they introduced rules that didn't need ID checks. With that done, they then introduced a system that made payments easier, with no verifications. With the systems weakened, they began creating non-profit organizations and took over some existing ones. On paper, it all looked legit. The weakened grant system didn't even bother to capture ID numbers, which meant one person could submit multiple applications under different non-profit organizations, like a kid sneaking into a buffet multiple times with different plates.
It's not acceptable. In a time we were being told that the country is going through 43% unemployment rate, 62% of young people that are unemployed, and a GDP growth rate that is tittering between 0.1 and 0.6%. And then we're going to hear that our taxpayers are using 3 million rand in New York. It is unconscionable. It is intolerable. And you should be the ones that are better leading in exercising discernment on how much money gets spent, especially with conferences. You know this. You are in leadership.
So I'm saying that is what has happened, and we have learned from it and ourselves, that you will realize that with that, something that has happened. And,
I'm sorry, DJ, that's not good enough. That is not good enough. You can't come on air and say, yes, we spent 3 million rand of a taxpayer's money and we have learnt our lesson. 3 million rand you've spent of taxpayers' money and you're saying that you learned your lesson. That's not good enough. Because that 3 million rand, I can imagine, even if it was 2 million rand or 1 million rand, I can imagine how much work it would have done, that 1 million rand, in a country where ordinary South Africans are being told to tighten their belts. And yet we go to spend in New York and South Africans must just say, we forgive you, next time do better. No, you are the leaders of this country, not us. You were the ones that were supposed to be setting an example.
no, you're right. You're right.
DG, yeah, I'm going to leave it here, but at best, I'm disappointed at the fact that we can come and say that we've learned our lesson after we spent 3 million rand. It is intolerable. No South African should tolerate that. And if you had to ask me, that's the reason why anybody should be suspended. Let's leave it here. From the Department of Social Development, the Director General, Peter Nichipa.